Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Build Your Copywriting Business podcast. Hello, friend.
Hello.
Hi.
As always, I am joined by my super spectacular co-host, Kate Siddars. Hello, Kate.
Hello.
Hello. And today we are joined by copywriter extraordinaire, CCA student extraordinaire, and just, all around fantastic person, Alicia Kiminetta. Hello, Alicia.
Hi, I'm so honored to be here.
Oh my goodness, the honor is entirely ours. And also we want to thank you because you are on the other side of the world to us. So
Yes.
you are doing this interview when it is very early for you, and we really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes. And actually also too, Happy New Year to everybody. We are recording this in, I was going to say November, but we just discovered this coming out in New Year. So Happy New Year. Happy 2025 to everybody. I hope the future is bright. Yeah. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's dig into the real fun stuff. Alicia, tell us about yourself. What is your background? What interested you in copywriting?
Yeah, well, I guess when I look back at my career path, I would say at the age of 14, that's when I knew that I wanted to help people. At the time, I was interested in learning disabilities, so I studied that for a couple years. And then when I was about 20, I learned what social work was. And so I thought, oh, that's really interesting. You can work in a bunch of different places, hospitals, schools, governments, nonprofits, and you can work with different populations of people. And for some reason that was important to me. Like, I feel like I needed that broadness. Like, that was exciting. So I didn't really know much else about it. But yeah, jumped into my bachelor's and then master's and stuck with it the whole time. And I graduated a very eager, social work grad. I jumped straight into foster care, which is where the majority of my professional experience has been in social work. And um, I was in that space for about 5 years, working for the same nonprofit organization in that space. I was working in Southern California, so right in the middle of very big counties, very complex contracts that I was working under. And after about 5.5 years hit, even before then, I was just really burning out. And difficult life events were happening as well. I got really behind. And in 2020, I ended up thinking, okay, I really enjoyed the slow pace of 2020 of working from home. That was actually a bit of a break for me. I mean, besides the general dystopianness of it. But my husband now and I were thinking, okay, what can the future look like? And just really asking ourselves the magic question of, if we woke up tomorrow and a magic wand had been waved in the middle of the night and you kind of had what your problem didn't exist anymore, what would life look like? And the way that we answered that question was, well, let's move to New Zealand, because that's where I had grown up. Partially, that's where my family was at that time and still now. And so I was really missing them. We couldn't travel, and so we really just had to just either stay where we were or move. So we decided.
Hey there, it's Nikki. I wanted to take a very quick minute to make sure that you knew about our free on-demand copywriting training. Now, whether you are brand new to copywriting or you've been doing it for a while, but you just can't seem to hit those income goals, this training is for you. You are going to learn the 3 secrets to landing freelance copywriting work without relying on frustrating job bidding sites like Upwork or Fiverr, or without cold calling strangers. And if you've watched any of the student success stories on this channel, and if you haven't yet, check them out. This is the exact same training that they all started with. And I mean students like Kate K, who is making 6 figures working part-time and retired her husband to help her build her business. Students like Stuart, who replaced his full-time salary, which was a good one, with his freelance income and then some. Stacy, who hit 6 figures in her first 6 months as a freelance copywriter, and Ashley, who landed the in-house copywriting job of her dreams. They all started with this free training, and you can start with this free training too. So sign up right now at freecopywritingtraining.com.
Okay, maybe that will help solve some of my burnout. And so we moved at the end of 2020. I interviewed while still in quarantine for basically the exact same position I was in, just in New Zealand, a nonprofit working in the foster care child protection space. And I got it and started working in that space right away. And I will say that the quality of work in social work, for me, it definitely improved. My caseload went way down. The contracts were a lot easier to understand, so I felt like I could have freedom in my time of being able to decide how I could support families versus having to follow this checklist of all of these things I have to do. And there was a lot more freedom in the work. A lot of responsibility still. I had teenagers, and there would be placement breakdowns, and you just have this responsibility of, okay, I got to figure out where is the best place for this young person to go. And so it lasted 8 to 9 months before I just couldn't keep going anymore. Even though the quality was better, I still just burned out again, to the point where I had to give a month's notice, and I couldn't even see myself getting through the month. The work, it's not crazy work. It's just more where I was at mentally. And I just was like, I have to stop. I need a break. And luckily I had the situation where I was living with family. We were still with family at the time. So I wasn't paying rent. So my whole paycheck was just being saved, essentially. So I really had the freedom to make that decision. And so they let me go at 3 weeks. We kind of negotiated that, but I say that just so you feel the level of I can't continue one day more. And the last month, maybe a couple months beforehand, I can't remember the timeline, but I saw an ad for the CCA. And so that I kept that in the back of my mind. I researched it. I watched the video. I was ready to purchase, but I just waited. And I was looking at other kind of writing opportunities as well, like writing and editing stuff. And so I think what happened is I had my last day in social work. And just that feeling of relief of oh my gosh, I can actually focus on what I want to do now. And I have control over my time again. And then right away, I jumped into just writing jobs. And before I bought the CCA course, I think less than a month after I quit. So this all happened at the same time. So before I got your advice about Upwork, I jumped into that, and I think, I can look back and say I had some really good clients. Though, that it's hard to recreate, it's hard to find that again. But I think what I was doing is I was just trying to fill my time because I didn't have a full-time job anymore. And I wanted something to show for all the free time I had. And so I think if I look back, something that I would have done differently is just don't jump in, just start with the CCA course. That's probably what I would have done. Just do the learning, push yourself, yes, but jump in and do the learning and then start getting clients. But I did them both at the same time. So I was learning CCA stuff and I was very slow. I'm like one of your slowest students probably, of very, very slow. I would watch a video here, a video there. I wouldn't do the action sheets because for some reason that was scary to me. And I just would but what I did start to do, which was very valuable, is I just looked at the copy around me everywhere. I paid attention to everything. I looked at all the ads. I looked at emails. I looked at everything. And what I will say I was doing was in the CCA Facebook group, just saturating with all of the things that people were posting. So I was absolutely learning during that time, but I did kind of bog myself down with some freelancing clients doing cool stuff, like writing sleep stories. That was probably my best one. Working with a bunch of different kinds of firms and organizations, and it was good, and it wasn't terribly bad pay, but Upwork is very all consuming in that there's so much competition. And had I maybe started with a CCA and building my portfolio, then I could have pitched to more people that I wanted to versus relying on, the people that were posting. So that's how the beginning of my copywriting journey looked. The very beginning.
That's
Thank you
terrific.
for
Well, and
sharing that.
yeah, good for you for just jumping right in though. Like, yes, do we not recommend? Yeah, sure. But at the same time, you took action, and
I was gonna
that's
say, you're
really
doing
the more
things.
important thing. Exactly. It would have been very easy to sit back and and just not move forward, but you took action, and that's fantastic. Good for you.
Yeah.
I think I will gently tease you a little bit for the finding clients part. Well, that was the easy part. The doing the action sheets that's where the fear kicked in.
I know, right? I'm your most backward student that you will ever interview. Yeah.
No, not at all.
Though.
You're
I think it's helpful
clearly
for people to
go.
hear, though, because I think, not that this was what you did was messy by any means, but I think for some people it might not feel linear, or it might not feel as, perfectly boxed and organized. And I think for a lot of us, myself included, when we're learning something, to just shake it up and not be afraid to do what you did and get your hands messy is far more effective than trying to go in this linear path when it's not really a linear thing sometimes, where, you're trying to find a designer, but you can also work on your portfolio. And I think some people let that become a roadblock. And for you not to let that become a roadblock and just finding ways around it and doing the things that felt right, good for you. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
And I want to say too, thank you for your time as a social worker, because I think it's one of those careers where I feel like teaching too falls into this bucket for me, where they're careers, and could you do it for a lifetime? Yes, but they just feel like careers where they're unsustainable for a lifetime of work.
Yeah.
And so for what you did to dedicate that much of your life to that, yeah, thank you. That's a huge, huge emotional sacrifice, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's more to the social work story as well. Like, it didn't really even end there. So, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Uh, so basically, kind of picking up from that point of the story, I had a lot of clients that I was working with writing and editing sort of jobs. Some of them, it's like I edited some published children's books, or um, some different cool projects, but they weren't really advancing me in any direction. And I knew in my head that I wanted to pursue copywriting. And it's weird that I could do all these other writing jobs, but that copywriting was scary to me. I still am not totally sure. Maybe it's because I was hiding behind Upwork, I think. Like, I didn't really have to just cold pitch somebody. I would send a proposal to work that I already knew existed. So what I ended up doing to really ease myself in is I started applying the copywriting techniques that I was learning to my editing jobs. So, for example, I was editing a lead magnet for an organization. It was like a 60-page ebook. And the reason that I got that job was I pitched them saying, I can use copywriting techniques to organize this ebook in a way to where if people just read the table of contents, they can feel what the benefit is for them, or hook them into actually reading a little bit more. And then if you read the chapters, I organized everything to be, obviously benefit driven first, because people seem to hide their benefits at the very end. That's just naturally how people write. They explain everything and then they put the benefit at the end. So that's how I got the job. And I feel like I did a really good job. And so that was a little bit of a stepping
It's a really good pitch. Like, just to be clear, that's a good pitch. Like, who would say no to that? Yes, good for you.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, I knew that like the price that I had given them was like, like, are we going to, put this out there just for like a editor? But, because they were having a designer and everything like that too, but they did it. And so that, more than double paid for CCA, just like a non-copywriting job. And so still, had I done an action sheet at that point? No, maybe like a tone guide or something, but I had been thinking about it for months, and, very slowly moving through the program. And I ended up getting the thing that was most helpful in propelling me into copy was I had made friends with another CCA student. A lot of us like message each other or connect in different ways, and it's really supportive. And she lives in New Zealand, and we had been messaging for a long time, just checking in with each other, seeing where we were at. She was a few steps ahead of me. She'd already had like 5 copywriting clients, I think, and had a portfolio and had social media and had all of that. And she said, "Hey, I've got this referral come in, and it's this website. It's writing a website, and I just don't have the capacity to take this on. So do you want me to refer her to you?" And my first instinct was absolutely not. Like, I haven't even done an action sheet. I think I probably said that to her, but she pushed me and was like, I will be there in the background. And so I basically very hesitantly said yes. And I posted about that in the CCA group. And I think that it got the reactions it did because I posted the details of what it was like, how much I was paid, how long my copy doc was, things that surprised me, things that worked really well, things that were difficult. And it was such a huge, beautiful learning experience and a very big project. And that really, I got on a coaching call halfway through when I was like, I'm really stuck and I don't exactly know what the next step is. And just talking about it helped, me get to where I needed to be. And I was very happy with how that turned out. And she was very happy with it as well. Um, and it was after that point that I was like, okay, I need to work on my portfolio and I need to get my website up. I need to do all of this stuff. And in the meantime, while I spent the next several months being a perfectionist and taking way too long on all of those steps and not pitching or doing anything. I had some like little clients here and there, but I was like, okay, I'm going to focus on doing, building my business. And it just was so slow. And so during that time, I was approached by my social work, in my old social work team, my boss, and she said, there's another position open. It's part-time, and I really want you to consider taking it. And I decided to take it. I negotiated it. It was a 3-day position. I said, I can do 2 days. And so they're like, okay, yeah, we'll do that. And so I went back 2 days. And I currently am still there at 3 days. So I'm working with like part-time copywriting hours, but for some reason, especially at 2 days, I think my kind of goal is to more move back there. But the part-time social work, part-time copywriter is actually a really nice balance for me. It's working really well. And there's beneficial things about being in an office and just getting paid what you're getting paid, and you just show up and do the work you need to do. Like there's like, I can just show up and get paid. But then you are like, I want my time back at the same time. So at the end of those 3 days, I'm like, I can control what my days look like. And it's so nice. Like, I just appreciate each chunk of the week as it comes because I'm ready for it. So at the moment, that's where I'm at, and that's what's working for me.
That's terrific. Good for you. And I love too that you really kind of crafted what
Yeah.
works best, that
Yeah.
you still get that experience of making such a major impact in the social work, but then also that you get to do the copywriting work and work with your clients and yeah, really
Yeah.
get the best of both worlds. That's amazing. Good for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
I love when people get creative with their careers. I feel like that's why I love
Yeah.
talking. It's so cool to get into like, oh, okay, like I feel like we grow up thinking, okay, we have to do 9 to 5 and that's what it is. And it's got to be 40 hours. It's got to be, it, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's so cool that you've done.
Like,
Mhm.
ask for things. Just
Yeah.
ask and see if it's possible, and sometimes it is.
Yeah. And I
Well,
think
and
that
it
goes back to you asking that question with your now husband of what would our dream life look like? And so I
Yeah.
think this is the same thing on maybe a smaller scale of what would my
Yeah.
dream job slash
Yeah.
mix of things look like? I think that's
And they did ask me, I think earlier this year, they said, "We really need you for 4 days would be great." And I had just gotten this, like, 30% raise, and so I like, an extra day a week would really be great in that sense. And I just thought about it for a really long time. I knew that if I took a 4-day social work position, I would never advance my copywriting career. Like, 2 days is doable, like, 2 to 3 days, I give myself, but 4 days social work, and my husband was so supportive. He was like, "I You can do whatever you wanna do, but think of the future, think the flexibility you want." And I ended up saying no and just staying at 3 days.
Mhm.
And that was absolutely the right decision because I wouldn't have gotten the work that I have now if I had taken that.
Mhm, mhm. That makes so much sense. Well, and it's good for you for taking the time to think about it, because I think that when opportunities are offered to us, I think generally our default is to go, yes, I'll take it, whether or not it's actually what's best for us or what's right for us. And I think sometimes that we forget that people like us and the other students in the CCA and certainly people who are listening or watching tend to be high performers and high achievers. So it's so often going to happen that when we do something well, people are like, Can we get more of that? Can we get some more days of that?
Yeah.
Can we get more of that?" It's not like but I think maybe because we're in our own heads, we're like, I don't know, should I do this? But it's going to happen more often than not that people ask for more of us than we want to give. So good for you for protecting yourself,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. And
Yeah.
protecting my future
Yeah.
as well. Because if I have kids in the future, I want to protect that flexibility and
Mhm.
that ability. But I was still, I think this was a year and a half ago now that I'm talking. So I've been part time for a while and I still was building my copywriting business. I'd still only had a couple actual clients and and I knew that I just wouldn't get to where I wanted to be. Like, I wanted to build that and get to a place where, okay, I know what I'm doing. I know that I can bounce in and out or increase or decrease. I have that control.
Mhm.
yeah. And also good for you though for saying no. I feel like to the additional hours because I think that can be really hard both when you're capable of it. Obviously, it's something you could do. You want to help people, you want to help your team. And I think it
Yeah.
can be so hard to say no in that situation when to some extent whether you're a people pleaser or not. I think all of us want to make other people happy and do things at the expense of our own
Sanity.
well-being.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
sanity, all of it. Yeah.
Now, what kinds of copywriting projects are you working on? I mean, obviously only share as much as you feel comfortable sharing, but what kinds of stuff are you getting to do?
Yeah. I don't have a lot to work with, as you know. It's just basically those 2, maybe 3 days sometimes if I'm
Yeah.
really trying to get a deadline done.
Yeah.
Uh, but when I launched my portfolio, my website, which was only earlier this year, it was not like I want anybody listening, any CCA students listening to know that I'm just barely like 1 2 steps ahead. Like, I'm barely there. The majority of my career has been stuck in like, what should I call my business? And what should my logo look like? And how should I, and just writing the site. But when I actually had the accountability or sat down to do it, it did not take that long. So a lot of that is just me dragging my feet or resistance or being scared. But once I got my website out there, I posted it on Facebook to my friends there, and got people um, reaching out to me, which was great because I already know like the business that I'm working with now for up to 10 hours a week, which is perfect. It basically takes like my 2 days easily, is an organization that I'd volunteered with in the past. And yeah, I know a lot about them. I've gotten other people that have reached out as well that I've had discovery calls with, and have written uh, it's mostly been website work that I've gotten from that, but I really enjoy that, and I'm definitely open to any kinds of projects, but it seems to be what comes to me. And nonprofits, the majority of the work I've done has seemed to be in that. A lot of nonprofits, and also just businesses that maybe are for profit but very community oriented. And I think my social work that quality of, if I'm on a call with you, I 100% care about your business. And no matter what I'm getting paid, even if it was like $1, which obviously I would never pitch, but that's irrelevant when it comes to, if you're sitting in front of me and I'm going to write for your business and help craft your messaging to match the heart, the mission of what you're wanting to do, then I'm going to give 100% to it. So I'm going to make it the best that I possibly can. And I feel like that social aspect, the social work, social justice, just community orientedness is definitely attractive of when people see my website, they feel like, okay, maybe my organization, because it's so precious to me, will be safe with her. And so I feel like that's, yeah, the work that I've gotten since launching my website.
That makes so much sense. Well, and even just, talking with you, listening to you, it's you make it clear just in your presence how genuine you are and how much you do care. So I don't even have to imagine that when someone's on a call with you, they're like, yes, I trust her. I know that I can share this work with her, and she's going to give it her all and treat it with the love that I would treat it,
Yeah.
Wonderful. I wanted to thank you for sharing about well, it took me longer than, and I was thinking about my logo, and I was thinking about, because I think that they think there's so many people on that process, so many students who are in there and going, oh, I'm the only one who's moving slower than I think I should be moving. I do want to say that it's not a matter of you should be doing it faster. It's the timing is great, right? The timing has led to the everything you did in the
Yes.
process. All of the steps have led to where you are now, and the clients that you're working with. So you're right on time. But I think the key is that so many of us are thinking, I'm moving too slowly. I'm not doing it fast enough. I'm not. And number one, everybody feels like that. Even if you're motoring through, everybody, or well, maybe not everybody, but 99% of people feel that way. But as long as you are moving forward in one way, shape, or another, you're gonna get there.
Yeah, and it's always been, when I have accountability, because I'm in your quiz, I'm the accommodator kind of person. So I will show up for somebody else, but showing up for myself is very difficult, and I just don't prioritize it. Like my social media, for example, there's like 3 posts that I've had all year, so that's something I want to ramp up. But when you have accountability of, like, for example, I was going to a freelancer hangout on Friday mornings of just local freelancers, and we would have coffee for an hour. Um, that was before I went back part-time and now can't do it on that day. But when I had that freedom, I was doing that, and I had been thinking about a business name for so long. And I was and I know your advice is to not get stuck on it. And it's great advice because I got stuck on it. But when I said, like, this is the stage I'm at, I'm trying to figure out a business name, and one of the guys that runs it, he's so good, and he just kind of sat down and bounced ideas off, and we just talked about it for a while and helped me flesh it out a little bit. And then the next week when I came back, I had my name. So like during these periods of time when you get stuck, the accountability, like in CCA Plus or just messaging people, like if you can create that, especially if you're an accommodator type of person, it just is so helpful because also right around the time that I turned down the 4 days a week, that's when mentally I decided if I'm going to turn down an extra day a week, then I need to really ramp things up. And I wrote my website and designed it and got it up in 2 weeks from that point. Like so much of it is mindset. And you talk about mindset a lot, but it's the willingness to push yourself and to just do it and to put in place whatever system, whether it's accountability or whatever it is that works for you. And so it's when it's not just like thinking about it. I got stuck in just thinking about things in the back of my mind while I was doing other things. But the way I got my name was by sitting down and painstakingly writing out things that came to me and just sitting there for like 2-hour chunks of time and just figuring it out. And that's when it comes. Thinking about things is important, but it was when I gave 100% of my time, when I, blocked it out on my calendar and was like, you're coming up with a name. That's when you make progress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So good. I just want to go back and like underline that, highlight that. And
I also want to point out the fact, I thank you for sharing that you started in digging in before you even had your portfolio. This is relevant for me because there was just a post today I saw in the Facebook group. And I think this is such a key phase where people can throw up their own roadblocks. And I think the name falls under this too. Good for you for finding a way around it of like, okay, you know what? I know I don't need a name, but I'm hung up on this. So I'm going to figure it out and get past this. And I think the portfolio is the same thing. And you went around it by getting clients and having pieces for your portfolio. And so there's so many ways.
Yeah, and testimonials and
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, great point. Yeah. And getting paid to do it too versus, yeah, good for you for finding ways what works for you and getting around these things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I also just want to say I'm like the opposite of a poster child for like going through the CCA as it should be gone through.
Would disagree.
Strongly disagree. Yes. Strongly
Oh my
disagree.
gosh. So to date, I've only done like completed and have designed one action sheet. Like I did an action sheet after that whole website project, because I was like, I really need a banner ad for my portfolio. So.
Great.
That's
Great.
perfect.
Yeah.
I hope people who are in this, because I know there are people that have the same roadblock. So I hope they hear this and they're like, if Alicia did that way, I can do it that way. So thank you for sharing that.
Exactly. And here's the thing, the action sheets are designed to like give you some practice before you get some clients. But let's say hypothetically, you are someone who just starts getting clients first, then guess what? Use them as you need them or don't use them. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I love too that you went back and you were like, I need a banner ad to fill this gap in my portfolio. Good for you. Yeah, cool. There's nothing saying that you have to do that first and then get clients second. And I think that's where it comes, that linear aspect of like, blow that up. Let's do what works as long as, to Nikki's point, you're making progress.
And like I would get stuck on different things like finding a designer. I know that's a big thing for a lot of students. And I made a LinkedIn, volunteer job post, and I got a bunch of people responding. And I reached out to a couple people, and none of those really panned out, though it was really good experience. And I did do some work with them. So I still got, like, I had Zoom calls and I had that practice of collaboration, but I ended up just designing my banner ad myself because I could. So could it be better? Probably. Am I like very proud of it for having done it all myself? Yes. But, but I don't want people to get stuck like I have done on different things, because like from my story, you don't need to necessarily do it in a row, though it is in that order for a reason. It does help.
Sure.
But yeah, you can be creative and just figure out what works best for you with what you have.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, and I want to emphasize too that not only are you building a life and a career that is working so well for you, and you're landing clients, but also your clients are loving your work. I know you posted something in the group about doing the
Mhm.
creative review, and the client just says they all had like their hands on their heads, being like, "This is amazing!
Yeah.
We can't believe how you did this."
Oh, that was like, and did I pour my absolute soul into that project? Yes. Because I cared about it so much. I didn't know anything. It was a project about athletic trainers that were really wanting to combat the social injustice within the institutions of like access to good athletic care when you're in sports in high school or college. And so they're really about building that network. And I'm not a sports person. That's the other like really surprising thing about copywriting is how you can write for industries that you know nothing about.
Yeah.
You
But
learn so much, don't you? It's
yeah,
fascinating.
it's
Yeah.
so crazy, and I came up with, like, just headlines and things that I was just like, "Yes, this is so great." Like, I was so excited to show it to him, and I was just so relieved when they were like, "Oh my gosh, like, this is exactly what we've been thinking in our heads, but haven't been able to get out so succinctly." So, yeah, it was that was a really nice confirmation. I know not every project is gonna be like that. And I'm totally okay with that, but it is nice when that magic happens like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. Now, like sometimes clients are gonna be like, "This is great, thank you." But yeah, hang on to those ones where
Yeah.
they do, and sometimes some people might be loving it inside. They don't know how to gush, but
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
you should be so proud of yourself. And I think that's something that it's so easy to forget about when we're writing for clients, whether it's a nonprofit or whether it's a profit. Frankly, is that the work that we do affects our clients and makes all the stuff that they were trying to get across, makes it clear, and gives them the ability to convey their message to their target audience. And then that affects, so it affects not just our clients, it affects the client's audience. And then there can be, ramifications beyond that too. So whether it's, again, nonprofit, I think it's a little bit easier to understand, but also even for profit, the things that we do as copywriters, the messages that we convey actually make a difference out there into the world. And it's amazing when
Yeah.
you really think about how far out those ripples can go.
Yeah. And you get to choose that. Like when you pitch people, you get to choose who you pitch. Like there's so much control. And I know people are worried about like ethical copywriting. You can be a very ethical copywriter because you get to choose who you reach out to or who you apply for a job for. Like you
Mhm,
get to control that.
exactly. And even if you apply or you pitch someone and you get on a call with them and you go, "You know what?
Yes.
For whatever reason, maybe it's a great company or maybe it's a great organization, but you just think, you know what, maybe this isn't for me." Then great.
Okay.
Walk away and find somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Control is pretty amazing.
I'm curious, being in, New Zealand,
Yeah.
different spies. Are your clients all over? Are they where you are? How are you navigating all that?
Yeah, so far, I don't think I've had any clients in New Zealand yet. I've tried to work on that. Again, I have barely ever pitched, so that's another thing
Sure.
that I also need to learn and work on. But yeah, mostly in the US.
Mhm.
I will have a discovery call with someone in Switzerland. And even she was actually a former Upwork, no, not Upwork. She was a referral from an Upwork client to one of her
Mhm.
friends that was working on
Mhm.
a book. And she just saw in my email signature that I have a website now, and then asked for a call.
Cool.
And she was like, "Is it going to be a problem that I'm in Switzerland?" And I was like, "No, absolutely not. Like 8 a.m., 8 p.m. It works, you know?"
Perfect.
Uh, so yeah, no, that does not phase me at all. I have a really nice app where I can just like see all the different time zones at once and scroll, and oh, it's so nice.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
So yeah, you just work around it.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
hope people hear that because I know that's such a big, but I'm in this time zone or I'm working a full-time job. And it's like, clearly what time is irrelevant.
Well, like if you're in the US, yeah, it's not hard to just stay within the US. That's
Mhm.
probably what I would do if I was there. But being in such a small country,
Sure.
I just want more options, and so
Mhm.
yeah, just work with it.
Yeah,
Well,
I
it's
think
also
credit
but
to
fun.
Australia and New Zealand. You guys
Yeah.
have the worst time zone translations, I feel like, of anyone. So way to
Yeah,
go. We appreciate it.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Alicia, this has been so helpful.
Yeah.
I guess the only other question I have is just, is there any advice that you would give to someone who is thinking about starting copywriting, or maybe they've just gotten started, just kind of starting to dip their toes in? Is there anything that you would share to kind of help them on their way?
Well, I feel like I've tried to sprinkle as much of that into
And you
this as I
have. Much
possibly could
appreciated.
because I listen to this podcast every week. Actually, sometimes I would try to listen to other copywriting podcasts, and it would actually give me a lot of anxiety and worry.
Mm.
But I stick to you guys because the CCA is very familiar, and I just
Mm.
needed that to start. And so yeah, I just the skills that you have within your other industries, wherever you're working, there will be relevant skills that you can pull in. For example, something that I do currently and have done for years is interview prospective families who want to foster. And it's like 4 hours, in 2 hour chunks at least of sitting down with a family, writing down every word they say. It's basically very easily translated into a creative brief and a kickoff call of of asking questions that really get at the heart behind like the actual meat of what you need to write good copy. They're not something that your clients would think, "Oh, yeah, this is relevant," or "Oh, I could write this down." But by asking those questions and really drawing out what you really need to know, that is hugely beneficial. That's one of my biggest strengths as a copywriter is my calls, is the kickoff calls of is asking good questions and recording the information and then being able to right. So I think social work, like it has nothing to do with copywriting, but it actually does. And that's where the USP comes in. I will
Mm.
say that taking the time, again, with the USP, it was about sitting down because I would think about it, for months. But then when that January, oh, this is a perfect time, January, February,
Yeah.
whenever that happens.
Pitchapalooza.
Yes,
Yeah.
Pitchapalooza. And one of the weeks is probably is going to be on USP.
Mhm.
And taking that week, I really did that this year in whatever year it is, 2024. I really, I did that and just made sure I didn't miss anything, really built up my pitch list and gave time to that. So I want to encourage people, students to not think that if I had like a full-time ability to just work on copywriting, that's when I would do what I
Mm.
want to do. And I can say no because I literally had that. And I've made more progress as a part time social worker because my mindset changed, because I'm determined now to make this work. I've given up other work to make this work. And so you don't have to have this perfect situation in order to sit down and do it. All you need is whatever time you have. If you sit down and you show up 100%, no other distractions, that's when you will make progress.
Oh, that's so
Such a good
beautiful.
reminder. Yeah, especially on
Yes.
January 1st. I feel like we were like, okay,
Yeah.
waited till January 1st. I caught myself saying that today. I'm like, well, 2025 is a new year. And I'm like, oh, we're barely at the beginning of November. Like, November's a new month. This is a new week.
Yes.
Tomorrow's a new
Mhm.
day. Like applying
Yeah.
that mindset to
Yeah.
every single day.
Mhm.
And I think what you just said is a great testament to that of like,
Mhm.
you can make a change every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, waiting for the ideal time, because
That doesn't
ideal
exist.
time doesn't
No.
come, right? It never
No.
comes. And on top of the fact that as you discovered and as I have discovered trying to do creative projects in the past, and sometimes when you have too much time, it's it's very easy to get lost in too much time.
Yes.
The perfect time can actually be when you have less time than you think you'd like to have.
Yes, that's something I really wanted to make sure that people heard, because I doubt that there's many students or people listening that have just their
Copious amounts
full-time
of
load
time.
to
Yeah.
play with. Very
We've got a lot of
unlikely.
lottery winners in the CCA. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, sometimes it is when your time is more limited that you're more purposeful with it. I just kind of let things bog me down. Like I had a lot of ongoing clients and they were really great and I had good work, but I wasn't focusing my energy on the things that were going to advance me to the next level. Like really sitting down and being really picky with clients as well. That's very important when you're starting because you can get bogged down really easily, especially if you're working with part-time hours. Really have to protect that and really figure out what is the next step that I need and then do that with the time that you have.
So fantastic. So
Love
fantastic.
it.
Alicia, this was wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing this, sharing your story. I know that it will be very inspirational, and I also hope that it will maybe challenge people to think differently about how they're approaching things. But at the same time, too, if somebody's listening and they're thinking, "Ooh, she's great. I want her to work on some of my projects. I want some of those 10 hours." Where can people find you?
My website is a great place to start on www.copysilk.com.
Copysilk.com.
Copy
Awesome.
Silk.
And we'll put that link in the show notes so it's
Yeah.
easy to get
Great.
to. Yes, and putting yourself out there. We'll see if this clients come from this as well.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, right. You never know. You never
Maybe I'll
know.
never have to pitch. No, just kidding. I will. I will pitch. That's
Good girl.
my
Good girl.
2025. Yeah. I'll be
Good
in
for you.
Pitchapalooza with you. So
Yeah.
Yes, we'll see you there. Yes,
Yeah.
excellent. Awesome. Well, Alicia, thank you so much for sitting down with us. It's early in the morning for you, so we especially appreciate it.
Of course.
This has been fantastic, and yeah, we're looking forward to collaborating with you in Pitchapalooza.
Yes.
And so with that, we will catch all of you guys in the next episode. Bye, everybody. Like what you heard? Hit subscribe so you never miss a video. And if you're ready to take the first step toward becoming a copywriter yourself, sign up for a free video training right here.